Since Shane went through the nuts and bolts, a lot of the finer details of hybrid meetings, I'm going to just share some experience with what I've done in the past few years. And actually, the first person I worked with on hybrid meetings was Shane. A few years ago in my home area, and actually we still don't really have H&I, but we were struggling with H&I, didn't really have any panel leaders, but we had facilities reaching out asking for speakers, asking for panels. And I noticed that one of the slots that they were asking for a speaker on lined up with a meeting I saw Shane posting in Service Solutions group on Facebook. So I asked if he would be okay with allowing that to be connected to a facility for a hybrid H&I meeting. So it was already being used as a hybrid meeting. It was a physically meeting in Kentucky that was being open on Zoom for anyone to participate remotely. And from there, we actually did that H&I meeting for 7 months. So what I did was I brought my tablet and my phone in there, and some nights my tablet actually didn't work. My tablet decided it didn't want to connect to the internet for whatever reason. But I was able to bring my tablet and my phone in and HDMI adapter and connect that to their TV so that the people there could see and hear the speakers that we had every week. And that's really all the equipment that I needed at that time for that facility. They were able to fully engage in that. And if anyone, when it came to Q&A, we just used whatever device I had on hand that was working. Just use that. They would sit in a chair in front of it, ask questions. Usually the video was off. Sometimes we turned it on so they could wave and say thank you. But typically we had video off for anonymity. And they were able to get 2 speakers a week through that. And that was the first example of a hybrid meeting that I had. And it was just very simple. It's one device hooked to a TV through an adapter. No more complicated than that. And then after that, the next hybrid that was service meetings, NEZF. We actually, the first time we did a hybrid meeting, we weren't planning on doing a hybrid meeting, but a few delegates had requested it because they weren't going to be able to be present. So at that time, I was vice chair. So the chair and I quickly threw together using my laptop, and I think we had an external mic. We didn't have an external camera for that meeting, and we had a projector on hand. And it was really, really easy to put together. Like Shane said, with planning, very simple steps. If you address this, rather than feeling like it's overwhelming and just take it a little step at a time and one piece at a time, address your connectivity, address what device will connect you to that, whether it's through the phone or through the internet, address how you're going to have people on the remote side, on the video conference side, be able to hear you, to see you. How are you going to see them? And how are you going to host all of this? Once you address that, it really is very, very simple. So it can seem overwhelming if you're not familiar with this, but once you get into it, it's not. Now with that NEZF meeting and all the service meetings that I've been a part of on hybrid, we set up all the connectivity through my laptop, but we used an external device, my tablet at that time, to act as host for muting and unmuting and allow screen sharing for co-hosts. That's actually the most common practice that I personally do, and I know that others do, is you have whatever device is connected to the projector, to the mic, to whatever, as the host, and then you log in through another device to manage the mutes, the chats, and so on. That way you don't have to have someone sitting at the physical device that is doing the screen sharing and doing all the work. You don't have to have someone sitting there. Now that's also, Shane brought up that you don't have to physically be on site to be the admin and be doing the hosting and co-hosting, which is an interesting point because I did that for my home group for a little bit when we were doing a hybrid meeting before everything closed down, because none of the members were, I'll say, tech savvy enough and didn't really want to be tech savvy enough to host or deal with hosting or any kind of other equipment on site. But they were okay with, if I was willing to act as host from my house when I couldn't be there, because I can't be at my home group every other week, as long as I was willing to act as host remotely, someone there would just log in a cell phone to the Zoom meeting, and that would provide the audio video connect to the room, and it could be moved around as needed. If someone was speaking on the other side of the room, someone could move the cell phone to that side of the room. Kind of like if you're in a big conference, when they're moving the mic around to the different people that are speaking, a cell phone or a tablet can be done the same way as needed. That's what we did for a few weeks. Through that hybrid, I remotely hosted anytime I wasn't there, and whoever was there that felt like connecting their cell phone, connected their cell phone to the meeting that I was hosting remotely, and I was able to mute and unmute people as needed for that. Now for the screen share on equipment, this was actually this past Sunday, a hybrid area meeting. And there's laptop, my tablet I actually moved to another table. And that's what I managed the meeting from for who was muted or unmuted. But laptop, projector, snowball mic, it was a small enough room. We didn't really need an external speaker. The projector had a loud enough speaker on it to be able to carry through the whole room so everyone could hear. But very simple, computer connected to the projector, computer connected to the snowball mic, computer connected to the camera that I actually set up on top of the projector screen. And it worked very well. We had a very productive area meeting through that. And I sat at another table on my tablet, logged into that meeting, and managed who was muted and unmuted. It was really not complicated. And again, I just want to stress that if you're not familiar with the technology, this very quickly can seem overwhelming through that unfamiliarity. But as soon as you start doing it and get any kind of familiarity with it, it is really very simple, step by step. And especially with all the wealth of experience, Shane, Wilvina, Mike, and many others, there's a wealth of experience and mentors that can help anybody very quickly get set up to this and feel comfortable doing this on a regular basis. This can be done with cell phones, tablets, $10, $20 mics, $10, $20 speakers, or none at all. Just it can be done with almost anything that you have on hand. Obviously, the more equipment you have and the more options you have, the higher the quality audio, video that you'll get. But Area Sunday, that was run off a hotspot because the fire hall that we meet at does not allow us to use their Wi-Fi. And then hotspots running, like our cell data inside is horrible. So I actually set my phone in a car just outside the front door with the hotspot running connected to my laptop. So there's a lot of creative ways that we can come up with, just like Wilvina uses that one hotspot brand. Verizon has jetpacks that you can get that either link to your main data or that you can get, you can even get an unlimited one for like $80 a month, but that's pretty expensive. But there's options. And then we're very creative people. And with all this wealth of options and all this wealth of knowledge, there's really nothing we can't overcome with this. Like there's Mike had a way of going about the room with the mic and the camera. I talked a little bit about that going around with a cell phone when it was just a cell phone, nothing else. There's no video, nothing. It's just that we can do this. It doesn't get in the way of our traditions. We have more than enough knowledge and more than enough experience and more than enough technology available to us to get this done and carry a message. The other thing on this is that gets brought up a lot is anonymity, autonomy, things like that to do with the traditions. And on the anonymity side, as Shane talked about, groups have choices on, do we want video on or off at all? Do we even want people to be able to see into the group? A group can say no. There's nothing wrong with saying no. A group can say, yeah, we want a video. We want the video feed so people outside here can feel a part of the group. Complete group autonomy on that. There's no harm. There's no anonymity break in that. Actually, the question of surveillance actually comes down to the purpose of having a video feed in a room, because that's another whole entire debate that people get into on whether or not we're under surveillance on this if we have a video feed active. But people can come into a meeting freely and see who's in there physically. So virtual is really not much different. The thing is with the virtual, you kind of have more options on anonymity. You have the ability to turn off video rather than, you can't make someone walk into a room with a blindfold and keep a blindfold on for the meeting, but you can turn off a video feed. You can participate with your video off, so people don't see you. You don't even have to put in your real name if you don't feel comfortable with it. So both groups and members have greater options for anonymity with hybrid meetings and virtual meetings than you do with a physical meeting. It's all in the choices that you make and how much you want to show or don't show. And there's really not many options in that aren't okay. It is completely up to you. You're not going to break traditions by having a video feed on and allow people to interact with that.
The one thing that you did mention, Dennis, and I appreciate you mentioning it, and I think that the anonymity is a concern for many people when it comes to online virtual platforms. And I'm glad you brought the point up. You know, you have the ability to be more invisible in a sense and protect your privacy on a virtual platform. than you would most likely be able to do in person. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I know just from experience talking with other members that had been a concern with people that are not familiar with the virtual platform.